Hello, everybody. This talk is a celebration of Jesus Christ, one of the great spiritual mystics of the East who lived 2,000 years ago. And he had some hidden teachings, secretive teachings, which we today think we understood. But Jesus Christ during his lifetime was one of the most controversial and spiritual mystic or Messiah, Christian Messiah that walked the face of the earth. Scholars today study him by the hundreds, by the thousand. And even amongst them, he is considered to be the most misunderstood of the mystics. His teachings are extremely misunderstood and misinterpreted. I'll try to straighten out some of the misinterpretation that is involved in his teaching. Let's look at the Bible first. Christ lived for about 33 years, and he taught for 3 years before he was crucified. He met a teacher by the name of John the Baptist who taught him everything about spirituality. And John the Baptist, if you read certain sections in the Bible, especially in John, he says that he's unfit to untie the sandals on Jesus Christ's shoes. He gave him high praise. But Christ tried to correct this, what he considered to be a misnomer. And when John the Baptist was crucified, Christ would tell everybody, including his disciples, that there is no man greater, born of a woman on earth, than John the Baptist. Christ was including himself in this statement. They were both making love to each other through words. We misinterpret this because they were on the same equal spiritual footing with each other. But before we continue, I would like to say that if you like the content we have on this channel, please take a moment to subscribe and let us know how well you like this video. It really helped us to get the word out. Now back to what I was saying earlier.
My son, they've run out of wine.
Mother, my time has not yet come.
If not now, when?
I'm ready, Father.
I'm going to tell everyone.
I was counting on it.
The Bible, after Christ was crucified, Christianity developed its name because Christ did not come into this world to set up Christianity. The name came after he was crucified, and Christianity subdivided into at least 24 sects within 20 years after Christ had passed away. There were many versions and many interpretations of Christianity because people at that time didn't have schools. They didn't live that long. The average lifespan during the time of Jesus was about 35 years of age. Most people were illiterate. They lived in little huts made of clay. They would take leaves and different trees, material, and make roofs to keep the rain and weather out to some extent. And they were lucky to have those. Most people slept in the streets with a little blanket or something over them. They didn't have clean water. They would go to the rivers and to the lakes, wash their clothes, take baths, and even get drinking water. They didn't know how to heat the water up and get rid of some of the germs. So many of them died early. There were no doctors. There was poor sanitation. And you will discover, because there were no schools, there were very few doctors, real doctors, so people died early. So when Christ spoke, he spoke in parables and he used allegories and symbolism to express his teaching. So the disciples who were illiterate, there were no ink pens, no pencils to write it down. So they went on their memory and they transferred his message and interpreted it to different people that they came in contact with through oral communication. So a lot of misinterpretation took place. So as the centuries went on, a couple of hundred years went by, and we got into the year 300 AD. And Christ was gone over 300 years by that time, or close to it. And the people took some of the writings at that time, the scholars, put it in a form what you call canons. Canons were holy papers in which they would preach in different places, and these places became churches or places of worship, synagogue, and they would preach from those holy papers. And then when Constantine came along, he was a conqueror. He was a ruthless despot, dictator. He conquered England at that time. He conquered most of Europe and part of the Middle East. And when he came along, he had the people under his military power. He was a ruthless dictator, like I said before. And he was like Saddam Hussein. He had one of his wives killed and one of his sons killed. And he felt that they were in conspiracy against him and wanted to perform a coup d'etat. So he was like a paranoid king. So he was ruthless. But he organized most of the people in Italy at that time, especially in Nicaea. He organized them, the bishops and the priests at that time, and he organized them into about 250 of them. And he said to them in private, I want you to give us a book, because the Muslims have their book, the Jews got their book, and we need our holy book. So the priests and the bishops, some of them resisted him. He banished them and ostracized them and said, y'all cannot become part of this. Y'all got to get out of town. And the ones who listened, he said, I'll put money and pump it into y'all, and y'all can have big churches and you can spread this message. He didn't tell them that he wanted not only to have military power, but he wanted to have power over their minds and their attitude. So since Christianity was influential, he said, organize this religion and maybe I can gain control over their mind. He was not a Christian when he said that. He only became a Christian on his deathbed. Okay? So this word spread, and when they organized it, that's when we came up with the Bible in 325 AD, over 200 some years after Christ was crucified. So I'm saying all of this to give you a background, because when we go to churches, the ministers themselves don't go into this. I don't know if they studied this themselves. Because Constantine was canonized by the Catholic Church and was called a saint. They call him Great Constantine the Great, the Saint, when he had all of these other histories of negative murdering and killing of people before he changed. But anyway, getting back to the hidden teachings and secret spiritual statements of Christ, let's delve into that for a few moments. Let's look at Matthew's chapter 17, verse 21, where Christ says, lo here, lo there. The kingdom of God is within this body. I may be paraphrasing it, but I'm trying to give you a clear understanding that Christ said his kingdom, God's kingdom, is inside the human body. God is everywhere, but he exists primarily where we can contact him inside this human body. In Matthew's 7th chapter, 7th verse, seek and you shall find. Knock and the door will open unto you. Where is this door located? How do we seek? Where are we located in this body? Why do they call this body a temple? This body has several floors inside of it. I'm talking to you now, and you're on the wakeful state of consciousness, which is the 6th floor, right behind these 2 eyeballs or holes. This body has 9 openings, 9 doorways, 9 holes. It actually has a 10th one, but let me describe the 9 doors. You got 2 openings at the eye level, holes in which you look out of these 2 eyeballs, and your attention flows out into the physical world and mingle with the physical world and get trapped in the different objects and scenes that it sees. Then you have 2 holes at the ear level, earlobes. You hear sounds negative sounds, sweet sounds, and your attention gets locked into hearing the sounds, and you communicate through the mouth, which is one hole. You got two holes at the nostril level. You smell beautiful scents, and your attention gets caught in the scents coming from this world into your nose. So far, I've counted 7 doorways. 2 at the ear level, 2 at the eyeball level, 2 at the nose level, and 1 at the mouth, in which we do a lot of talking. As a matter of fact, we do too much talking. The mouth should be used to ask questions and learn, to seek. Then you got a hole at the reproductive area, and most men spend most of their attention, if you talk to the ladies, at that lower part of the reproductive area, because it's a pleasure center. And then you have the other hole at the butt, at the defecational area, where you get rid of all of the digestive food and fluids through that door called the defecational organ. It's 10 doors. Where's the 10th door? The 10th door is 2 inches behind. If these 2 fingers become doors, openings, eyeballs, and you go about 2 inches behind, that's where the 10th door is located. Right now, it's tightly vaulted down. It's fastened, almost impenetrably fastened down. Only 2 things can open it up. One is you have to concentrate your attention. And if you concentrate your attention intensely, this door can be opened up if you do it with love and devotion. Otherwise, a gunshot wound, a stroke, or heart attack will also create enough pain and trauma on the body and force this door open. And you will find yourself leaving this body. We all will leave this body one day. We'll die. There's something in the body which will take you out. And that is a strange noise. Yes, in Matthew's 7th chapter, 13 to the 14th verse, Christ makes a beautiful statement concerning this door, which is behind the 2 eyeballs, 2 inches behind the 2 eyeballs, the 3rd eye. He says to his disciples, all of you should try to practice entering this door, which is a very narrow door. Because if you go through the wide doors or the gates, these gates that are leading outside, the 9 doors, the 9 gates, they wide. Your attention can go in so many different directions, 9 different directions. But there's only one direction that you can go inwardly, and that's through the narrow gate. This gate is very narrow and it's singular. And if you go through the narrow gate, you can enter into a real life, a beautiful joy and happiness and knowledge exists if you can go through that gate. And there's a conscious way to do this. But you don't have to practice any conscious thing other than run out through the 9 doors and you can get lost. That gate is wide. Those are the 9 gates and they lead to destruction. And there will be many who will go through those gates. But this narrow gate, only few will find it and go through it. And you are my disciples. I have chosen you. You've not chosen me. That's also in the Bible. And so he continues with this theme in the Bible, in John chapter 15, verse 16. Christ told his disciple, I have chosen you. You are my flock. And people that are in my flock know my whistle. At that time, they had whistles to call their sheep. And when the sheep hear my whistle, they will come. So I have chosen you. I did not choose everybody. Many are called, few are chosen. He says that also in that section. Now, when we come down further in John 9:4, chapter 9, verse 4 and 5, Christ says something beautifully. Pay attention to this part. He's revealing something profound. He says, I, referring to himself, must work the work of him who sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can see. That light does not last forever. He meaning he'll die one day, but a light will always be in this world. Meaning there'll always be a spiritually advanced human being. And you have to seek that being if that master does not leave a successor. Christ left one successor. That was Peter. And Peter struggled with Christ being God. If you read deeper into the Bible in some section, Peter told Christ, I'm willing to die for you. I go to jail for you, Christ. Christ said, could I be? Yes. You don't know how to open up this door, Peter. This door is right behind the two eyeballs near the pineal gland. And you don't know how to open it up, so you'll deny me 3 times before the cock crows. But if you'd open it up, you can die, go in and out of the body at will. So all fear of death will be eliminated, and then you'll know for real that I am that being that created everything. So that was a beautiful statement in those 2 verses. Yes. So Christ was saying in beautiful, simplistic language, but he's speaking to his disciples. He's not speaking to us today. Yes, we were around, but we were not around at that time, because all of his disciples, including Peter and Judas, they've gone back. Christ does not let any disciple who hang around him and develop love, even if those betrayed him. He's not like us. He gives unconditional love, and he has taken all of them back. So evidently we're here. We imagine we're following Jesus. We're not. Christ will choose you. Remember that. You can't choose him. All these perfect, spiritually advanced beings will come here and pick up seekers. And God has set up a system. His system is, this is profound. God, when a person is seeking and wants to get out of this creation, God said, I myself will come and pick them up. He'll pick up all of his children because they were with him originally. Everybody didn't leave God. Only a few of us wanted to explore this Disneyland, this fun town. And after we experienced so much pain, we wanted to leave and go back. So when we cry out or seek, which is the same thing, he himself will come and pick you up and take you back to your home. But you have to seek strongly or cry out for him with pain. So let me end by saying 2 more spiritual statements in the Bible. In John 9:4, I already talked about 4. Let me talk about the 5th verse. He says, referring to the fact that he's the light of the world. Walk while you have the light. A little while, I have to leave you and go back to where I came from. So take advantage of me. And then in another section, in Matthew's 10th chapter, verse 34 to the 37, he says, which a lot of Christians misunderstand. There's a lot of misunderstanding, even with the scholars. I come to this world not to create peace, but I come with a sword. I come to separate a man from his father, and a daughter from her mother, and a daughter-in-law from her mother-in-law. And he ends up in the last statement by saying, your foes will be in your own household. He's referring to enemies. Because when you become a human being, when you put love in your heart and you start getting ridiculous, intense love, and some of your relatives and friends would be wondering what's wrong with you. They'll see that you love this human being. They won't know it's God more than you love them. And they'll say blood is thicker than water. And you'll be in a dilemma. But you must choose God. You must love me more than your mother and your father and your brother. Otherwise, you're not worthy of me, he says, in private to his disciple. Because that love intensifies your attention and makes it easier to open up this tent door. And then you can fly in and out of the body at will. Only one of Peter's disciples, Christ's disciples, was fortunate to achieve this. And that was Peter. Peter was given the keys by Christ. Christ tells Peter, which was his chief disciples who denied him 3 times. He eventually told Peter, that's written in the Bible, Peter, unto you I give the keys to the kingdom of heaven. He meant that in order to open up this door, you need a key. And he gave Peter a key, a spiritual, metaphorical key. That's how he could open up the door. When Peter was able to go inside and they killed Peter, they crucified him, he said, crucify me upside down because I don't deserve to be crucified upright like Christ. And Peter died that way. Most Christians today, when they go to church, the minister put a lot of attention on Paul, as though Paul was one of the chief disciples. Actually, Paul, if you ask these preachers, they will tell you, he used to persecute, and he was in charge of killing the Christians, sending them to the lion's den, to locking them up in jail. He was an abuser, but he was doing it under the control of the king. And when he had so-called clinical death experience, when he was riding a horse, he had a clinical death experience, and he changed his ways. But he had disputes with Peter, because Paul was an educated person. Peter was an illiterate fisherman, but Peter was given the keys, and there was a rift between the two. Peter had lived with Christ, spent time with Christ, watched Christ perform miracles, and yet he had his doubt. You can imagine Paul had doubts too. Paul never spent time with Jesus in a real way. He only said he saw him in a clinical death experience. So you discover that Peter was the one. And when Peter passed on, he did not assign a successor. Okay? He became the successor. And the church set up their system where they said, okay, we'll set up bishops and popes, and became popes from that century on until today. And the Catholic is a huge church. If you look at the Christian religion, there are over 2 billion Christians, erroneously and mistakenly thinking they follow in Jesus. God will give them credit. He's not a harsh God, but they have to come back here and learn these different lessons. And if you want to know all of the lessons, look at many of the YouTube talks. Not just my YouTube. I go into all of these different lessons. Look at some of them and write me if you still have questions. Don't forget to push the like bell, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can get alerts to all of our YouTube talks that we'll be doing from time to time. So thank you, and spread the message that this is a good, wonderful Christmas sermon on the secret and hidden teachings of Jesus Christ. And if you have any questions, email me with your question, and I will find the time to answer them. So at this time, let me say thank you, Merry Christmas, and hope all of you have a Happy New Year. Good luck, and best wishes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Seek not ye what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God. And all these things shall be added unto you.